We're not performing the beep retrieve on the Class A automatic. First thing that you guys have to do when you're parking the truck on the DMV is check the wheel. Make sure you put one chuck on the front and one chuck on the back. Now, we're going to start the beep retrieve. To start the beep retrieve, we're going to walk into the other side of the truck. And on this side of the truck, first thing we're going to inspect is the exhaust system. My exhaust system coming from the front all the way to the back. I'm going to make sure it's not cracked, broken, or leaking, and it's securely mounted by the straps and hangers. My straps and hangers, I'm going to make sure they're not cracked or broken, and they're securely mounted, not missing hardware. My exhaust system is not leaking. You see what's leaking? I will see a black soot. Now, I'm going to inspect my fuel tank. My fuel tank, I'm going to make sure it's not cracked or broken, and I'm going to look under, make sure it's not leaking. And they're securely mounted by 2 straps. My straps, I'm going to make sure they're not cracked or broken, and they're securely mounted, not missing hardware. My fuel tank is not shifting. You see what's shifting? I will see a shiny metal. Now, I'm going to inspect my steps and my catwalk. I'm going to make sure they're not cracked or broken, and they're securely mounted, not missing hardware. They're free of debris, grease, or any other object. On my fuel tank, I'm going to inspect my fuel cap. My fuel cap is on the lock position. It's not cracked, broken, or leaking, and it's securely mounted. I'm going to open it to make sure I have the safety chain. My safety chain is present. It's not cracked or broken, and it's securely mounted, not missing hardware. The rubber seal inside my fuel cap is not excessively worn or torn, and it will not leak. Now I'm going to close it. Once I close my fuel cap, I'm going to walk into the other side of the vehicle. First thing I'm going to inspect on this side of the vehicle, because we're doing the beep retrieve, is going to be the marker light. I have one on the other side. They're amber in color because they face in the front of the vehicle. The function of my marker lights is my left turn signal, my right turn signal, my forward flashers, and my running lights. Now I'm going to inspect my mirrors. My mirrors, I'm going to make sure they're not cracked or broken, and they're securely mounted. They're securely mounted to the arm. The arm is securely mounted to the vehicle, no missing hardware. Now I'm going to inspect my door. My door, I'm going to make sure it's not cracked or broken, and it's securely mounted. My door handle, I'm going to make sure it's not cracked or broken, securely mounted, no missing hardware. My door, open and close properly. My door, I'm going to make sure it's securely mounted by the hinges. It's securely mounted by the hinges. My hinges, they're properly aligned, they're not cracked or broken, securely mounted, no missing hardware. This one right here is my inner seal. My inner seal, I'm going to make sure it's not excessively worn or torn, and it will not leak to the inside. Now, I'm going to inspect the steps on this side of the vehicle. I'm going to make sure they're not cracked or broken, and they're securely mounted, no missing hardware. They're free of debris, grease, or any other contamination. From my steps, I'm going to come into this section right here. First thing I'm going to inspect is my cross members. I have 1, 2, and 3 cross members on this side, and my frame. I'm going to make sure they're not cracked or broken. They're securely mounted, no missing hardware, no illegal holes or illegal welds. From there, I'm going to inspect my drive shaft. My drive shaft, I'm going to make sure it's not cracked or broken, and it's securely mounted, no missing hardware. My drive shaft is securely mounted by 3 U-joints. I have one in the front, one in the middle, and one in the back. The U-joints on my drive shaft, I'm going to make sure they're not cracked or broken, and they're securely mounted, no missing hardware, and they're properly greased. To be specific, on my beep retrieve, I'm going to inspect all the hoses on this side of the vehicle. I'm going to make sure it's no abrasions, bulges, cuts, or leaks, and they're securely mounted, no missing hardware. I'm going to inspect all the wires on this side of the vehicle. I'm going to make sure they're properly routed, no exposed wire, no frayed wire, securely mounted, no missing hardware. From there, first thing I'm going to inspect is my leaf spring hangers. I have one in here and one in the back. My leaf spring hangers, I'm going to make sure they're not cracked or broken, and they're securely mounted, no missing hardware. This one right here is my leaf spring bushing. My leaf spring bushing is not excessively worn or torn, and it's securely mounted, no missing hardware. These ones right here, they're my leaf springs. My leaf springs, I'm going to make sure they're not cracked or broken or shifting, and they're securely mounted by 2 U-bolts, shim, spacers, and 4 nuts. From there, I'm gonna start inspecting my tires. This is a dual axle. So first thing I'm gonna inspect my inside axle seal. So I'm gonna point it right here in the middle. Okay, this is my inside axle seal. And this one is my outside axle seal. I want to make sure it's no crack or broken or leaking and it's securely mounted, no missing hardware. My axle seal is not leaking. If it was leaking, I will see puddle or spin trail. If my axle seal was leaking, I could not service myself, so I can take it to the mechanic or a shop. Now, I'm going to come inside again, and then I'm going to start inspecting my brake liners. My brake liners, I want to make sure they're not cracked or broken and they're securely mounted, no missing hardware. They're not allowed to have less than 1/4 of the inch of the thickness point. For my brake liners, I'm going to inspect my brake drum. I'm going to make sure it's not cracked or broken and it's securely mounted. Doesn't have any sign of the coloration indicating the overheating problem. Between my brake liners and my brake drum, free of debris, grease, or any other contamination. Now I'm going to inspect my two rims. We call them bad rims. My inside rim, my outside rim, my inside rim, and my outside rim. I want to make sure they're not cracked or broken and they're securely mounted. Doesn't have any legal holes or legal wells. My two rims and my brake drum, they're securely mounted by the lug nuts. All my lug nuts, they're present, they're on the tight position. They're not cracked or broken and they're securely mounted. Doesn't have any sign of distortion. If one of my lug nuts was loose, I will see rusty in this metal rim. I'm gonna mention then between my two rims, it's no daylight and it's a full contact. Now I'm gonna inspect my drive tires. First thing I'm gonna inspect is my inside tire, my outside tire, my inside tire, and the outside tire, and the face of my two tires. I'm gonna make sure there's no abrasions, bulges, cuts, or leaks, and they're securely mounted to my rims. Because this is a dry tires, they're allowed to be regrouped, recap, or retread. They can be a mix match, but they're not allowed to have less than 2/30 seconds of the deepest point. The air specification on my two tires is 120 psi or manufacturer specification. To check or add air to my tires, I will do it to the valve stamps by the tire gauge. I have two valve stamps. I have one in here, and the other one is right in here. My valve stamps, I'm gonna make sure they're not cracked or broken or leaking, and they're securely mounted, no missing hardware. I don't see a cap on the valve stamps, so I don't gonna mention the cap. Now, before I go inside, I'm gonna inspect my mud flat. My mud flat, I'm gonna make sure it's not ripped or torn, and it's securely mounted, no missing hardware. It's a proper distance to my tire and a proper distance to the ground. Before I go back, I'm gonna mention then between my two tires, they're free of debris or any other object. Now that I inspect my tires, that I inspect my my mud flat, we're gonna go inside. The first thing that we're going to inspect is that dual brake chamber. My dual brake chamber, I'm going to make sure they're not cracked or broken and they're securely mounted, no missing hardware. They're securely mounted by two clamps. The two clamps for my brake chamber, I'm going to make sure they're not cracked or broken or leaking, securely mounted, no missing hardware. The two hoses for my brake chambers, I'm going to make sure there's no abrasions, bulges, cuts, or leaks, and they're securely mounted, no missing hardware. This one right here is going to be my ABS wire. My ABS wire, I'm gonna make sure it's properly routed, no exposed wire, no fray wire, securely mounted, no missing hardware. From my brake chambers, I'm gonna come into the tab and I'm gonna inspect the frame and the cross member on this side of the vehicle. I'm gonna make sure it's not cracked or broken, securely mounted, no missing hardware, doesn't have any legal holes or legal wells. To be detailed on my pre-trip, I'm gonna inspect all the hoses on this side of the vehicle. I'm going to make sure there's no abrasions, bulges, cuts, or leaks, and they're securely mounted, no missing hardware. I will inspect all the wires on this side of the vehicle. I'm going to make sure there's no exposed wire, no fray wire, properly routed, no exposed wire, securely mounted, no missing hardware. Now, I'm going to inspect the lights on this side of the vehicle. The red in color because they face in the back of the vehicle. The function of these lights is my left turn signal, my right turn signal, my forward flashers, my running lights, and my brake lights. The clear stripe on my lights, it represents my reverse. Right in here, under my light, is my license plate light. I'm gonna make sure it's not cracked or broken and it's securely mounted, no missing hardware. From there, you guys gonna come in outside. Once you come in outside, you guys gonna mention between my landing gear and my vehicle is a proper distance to perform a 90-degree turn. That make you guys thinking, is you guys missing something on your beeper trip? If you guys don't missing nothing on your beeper trip, you guys will say, I will inspect the other side of the vehicle, the same way I inspect the side of the vehicle. Now I will start inspecting my couplings. This is how you guys are going to inspect the couplings and the automatic truck for the Class A. First thing I'm going to inspect is going to be my emergency line and my service line. I'm going to make sure there's no abrasions, bulges, cuts, or leaks, and they're securely mounted. They're securely mounted to my tractor, and they're securely mounted to my trailer. They're securely mounted to my trailer with the glass hands and the glass hand receivers. I'm going to make sure my glass hand and my glass hand receivers, they're not cracked or broken, and they're securely mounted, no missing hardware. The rubber seal in my glass, between my glass hand and my glass hand receivers is not excessively worn or torn, and it will not leak. And then, when you guys say it's securely mounted to my tractor, make sure they're not cracked or broken, and they're securely mounted, no missing hardware. Now I'm going to inspect my electrical cord. My electrical cord is securely mounted to my tractor, and it's no exposed wire, no frayed wire, properly routed, and securely mounted. And it's securely mounted to my trailer on the junction box. Okay? Because there's no exposed wire, no frayed wire, and it's properly routed, I'm gonna make sure it's not electrical tape or black tape. I'm gonna mention that my two hoses and my electrical cord is a proper distance on the catwalk. Now, I'm gonna inspect the apron on my trailer. The apron on my trailer, I'm gonna make sure it's not cracked or broken and it's securely mounted. This one is weld, so I'm gonna inspect the welds, make sure it's not cracked welding, no miswelding. This one right here is my fifth wheel. My fifth wheel, I'm gonna make sure it's not cracked or broken and it's securely mounted. I'm gonna mention that between my apron and my fifth wheel is no daylight and it's properly greased. From here, I'm gonna inspect my fifth wheel lever. I'm gonna make sure it's on the lock position, it's not cracked or broken, and it's securely mounted, no missing hardware. My fifth wheel is securely mounted to my platform by the pin and cutter pin. My platform is securely mounted to the frame. I'm gonna make sure it's not cracked or broken and it's securely mounted, no missing hardware. My frame on my platform is securely mounted to the frame of the vehicle. I'm gonna make sure it's not cracked or broken and it's securely mounted, no missing hardware. From here, I'm gonna walk into the back and I'm gonna go under the vehicle. Now right in here is my kingpin. My kingpin, I'm gonna make sure it's not cracked or broken and it's securely mounted. This one is welded, so I'm gonna make sure it's not cracked, welding, no miswelding. And it's on the lock position by the locking jack. My locking jack, I'm gonna make sure it's not cracked or broken and it's securely mounted, no missing hardware, and it's on the lock position around the shank of the kingpin. With that, you guys gonna come in back, exit the trailer, and then you guys gonna mention between my landing gear and my vehicle is a proper distance to perform a 90-degree turn. That completes my couplings.